Picture someone sitting by a window on a rainy afternoon. No phone in hand, no music playing, no task being worked on. Just a person and the rain, and a particular quality of stillness that looks, from the outside, like nothing is happening. But if you watch closely, there's something else going on. They're not bored. They're not waiting for the rain to stop, so they can get on with something more useful. They're exactly where they want to be, doing exactly what they want to be doing. The rain is enough. More than enough, actually. Most people watching from outside will assume this person is melancholy, or daydreaming, or simply not very driven. But those reads miss what's actually happening in the mind of someone who genuinely loves watching the rain. Because the psychology of it points towards something specific, a set of traits that are, in certain respects, genuinely rare. Let's start with the most foundational piece. People who love watching the rain aren't passive. They're doing something that most people's minds can't easily do. They're thinking deeply without a task to think about. And the rain is what makes that possible. Neuroscientists who study what's called the default mode network, the set of brain regions that activate when we're not focused on a specific external task, have found that this network is responsible for some of the most sophisticated mental activity humans engage in. Self-reflection, the integration of past experiences with present understanding, the kind of slow, wandering thought that connects things in unexpected ways and produces insight that focused, task-oriented thinking rarely generates. The default mode network needs space to operate. It needs the mind to be relatively free of competing demands, not blank, but unstructured. And that's exactly what rain provides. The sound of rain creates what psychologists and acousticians call a kind of acoustic boundary. It masks the irregular, attention-grabbing sounds of the external environment, voices, traffic, sudden noises, and replaces them with a consistent, predictable texture of sound that the brain quickly stops processing as information. The result is a kind of auditory room, contained, consistent, and just stimulating enough to anchor the mind without directing it anywhere specific. For people whose minds naturally want to go deep, who have rich interior lives, who think in connections and patterns, who process experience through reflection rather than action, rain creates the conditions they function best in. It's not that they're escaping into the rain. It's that the rain gives their mind the particular kind of environment it needs to work the way it actually works. Now let's talk about the emotional dimension of this, because there's something else happening beyond the cognitive, and it's equally important. Rain changes the world in a way that people who love it feel viscerally and specifically. The light shifts. The pace of everything slows. The streets empty. The ambient noise of activity drops away. And something about all of that, the combination of sensory changes that rain produces, creates a psychological state that researchers have studied under several different frameworks. One of the most relevant is what acousticians call pink noise. Unlike white noise, which contains equal energy across all frequencies, pink noise has more energy in the lower frequencies, and the sound of rain falling is a close natural approximation of this profile. Research has found that pink noise activates the brain's relaxation response. Cortisol levels drop, heart rate slows, and the nervous system shifts toward a state of calm alertness rather than vigilance. This is not a metaphor. It's a measurable physiological effect. But beyond the neuroscience, there's something that boundary psychology captures well. Rain creates a natural separation between inside and outside. The person sitting by the window is in a contained space, warm, sheltered, insulated from the world, that is, for the duration of the rain, doing something other than demanding things from them. Psychologists who study environmental comfort have found that people feel most at ease when they have a clear sense of enclosure combined with a clear view outward, the ability to observe the world from a position of safety rather than exposure. Rain delivers exactly this. You're inside. The world is outside, doing its wet, gray, unhurried thing. And for people who are often aware of how much the external world demands of them, its pace, its expectations, its relentless forward motion, the rain is something close to relief. Not because it removes the demands permanently, but because it suspends them, visibly and legitimately, for as long as it falls. The world itself has slowed down, and for once, slowing down with it requires no justification. There is also something worth noting about the specific way these people experience time during rain. For most people, an hour of doing nothing feels like a loss. Time that could have been spent on something measurable, something that produces a visible result. For people who love the rain, that same hour feels like a gain. Not because they accomplished anything in the conventional sense, but because they returned from it with something that is genuinely difficult to manufacture any other way. A mind that has had the chance to settle, to sort through itself, to arrive somewhere new without being directed there. That experience has a quality to it that these people recognize and value. And rain is one of the few things in life that reliably delivers it. The third piece of this is perhaps the most surprising and the most well-supported by research. Rain makes certain people think better, not metaphorically, measurably. A study published in the Journal of Environmental Psychology examined the relationship between ambient noise and creative performance. What they found challenged the intuition that silence is always optimal for thinking. A moderate level of ambient sound, not silence, but not loud or irregular either, produce the best outcomes for tasks requiring abstract and creative thinking. The mechanism, researchers proposed, is what they called distraction induction, a low level of cognitive interference that disrupts the tendency toward overly narrow, linear thinking and nudges the mind toward broader, more associative processing. Rain is one of the most effective natural sources of this kind of ambient sound. It's consistent enough that the brain stops tracking it as a signal, but variable enough, in texture, in rhythm, in intensity, that it provides gentle, ongoing stimulation. It creates just enough cognitive friction to prevent the mind from locking into rigid patterns, while leaving it free enough to make unexpected connections. People who love the rain have almost always noticed this in their own experience, even if they've never framed it in these terms. The ideas that arrive unexpectedly, the solutions that surface to problems they'd been stuck on, the particular clarity of thought that comes during or after a long rain. They've been experiencing the cognitive effects of optimal ambient stimulation, and their love of rain is, in part, a learned recognition of what it does to the quality of their thinking. These aren't people who love rain because it's romantic or atmospheric, though it can be both. And it's worth saying plainly that this quality of mind, the capacity to be still, to think without a destination, to find genuine satisfaction in an hour by a window, is not something most people develop easily or keep reliably. It tends to erode under the pressure of schedules, notifications, and the ambient expectation of productivity that modern life generates almost constantly. The people who still have it, who can still sit with the rain and mean it, have held on to something that many people have quietly lost. These aren't people who love rain because it's romantic or atmospheric, though it may be both. They love it because something in them recognizes the rain as the right environment for the most interesting version of their own mind. So let's be clear about who these people are. They're not melancholy. They're not passive. They're not people who need the weather to tell them how to feel. They are people who have a genuine need for contemplative space, who find in rain a natural and reliable source of calm and enclosure, and whose minds come most fully alive in the particular conditions that rain provides. In a world that prizes constant stimulation and visible productivity, the person sitting quietly by the window watching the rain is doing something that looks like nothing and is actually quite a lot. The rain doesn't give them an escape. It gives them access to the parts of their own mind that the noise of ordinary life keeps quiet. If that resonated, leave a comment. I'd like to hear your thoughts. I'll see you in the next video.